Hello, and welcome to the new year. For your viewing pleasure, I've created a 3-part series that I'm calling New Year, Pole New You that will get you ready to bring pole into your life. Though these videos are mostly geared towards beginners, this one applies to you if you've been thinking of setting up a pole in your own home. Here's Part 1, Setting Up Your Home Studio. Maybe you're a pole enthusiast and you don't get enough time in class to practice your favorite sport. Maybe you're someone who does the aerial silks or lyra and you have absolutely no space in or around your home to put those apparatuses. Maybe there's no studios around you or the studios keep closing due to the ongoing pandemic. Maybe you want a more consistent way to practice pole. Or maybe you've been seeing someone super cool on YouTube who has a pole in her home and you want to be just like her. Any and every is a valid reason for wanting a pole studio in your own home, so let's talk about what you're going to need to get you started. First, let's talk about your budget. You should set aside around $400 to $500 for your home studio. That's American dollars. I know that number seems pretty dang high, but I want you to get quality stuff. I've said it before, but trust me, spending $100 now on a cheap pole is only going to result in you spending that same $100 all over again when it falls down after a few spins, and you'll also be paying for the repairs in the walls that the pole fell into. Some people get lucky with their cheap poles, but I think that game of chance is better saved for the casino. You'll likely be spending around $300 on a high-quality pole from Lubit or X-Pole. That's about how much mine was after shipping, which can vary from place to place. If your ceilings are sloped or extra tall, you will need expanders or specialized parts, which can increase the cost as well. And I'm going to put on my strict hat for a moment here and tell you that you better not be buying a pole for your home without also getting a pole-specific mat to go with it. Mats can run you anywhere from $80 to $200 depending upon the thickness and color. If you're going to be practicing pole at home without an instructor present, you need a mat. Get one. If you don't have that amount of money saved up yet, then it's not time for you to have a home studio. I know, that sounds kind of cruel and very privileged, but really, spending the money once on good quality stuff will ensure that you have it for years, and pole is just too damn dangerous to go messing around with the low quality stuff. So you've saved up your money and you're ready to select your pole, but wait, no you're not. First you need to choose where you're going to put it. Figuring out where you're going to place your pole is a critical step before you go through with purchasing it. I would hate for you to eagerly buy yourself a 9-foot tall pole, wait several weeks, and then when it finally comes, you realize that the room you're trying to put it in has 10-foot ceilings and you have to wait another month for the extender to come. And psst, part 3 of this series is going to be about what you should do with that time while you're waiting. If you are lucky enough to have several rooms in your home to consider for your new pole studio, I'm going to talk to you first. Select a room that you don't use for much else. For example, you don't want to be constantly moving your kitchen table in and out of the way of the pole, you don't want your kids to mess with the pole if it's in their play space, and you don't want to get all tangled up in your scrapbooking supplies or chemistry set if it's a multi-purpose room. Find as empty a space as possible. Also consider that your pole is always going to be there, drawing the eye. Do you want guests to be able to see it? Are you worried someone might run into it? As for those of you who only have one room to work with, now we're all back on the same page. Universally, you need adequate space around the pole and vertical space to work with. For space around the pole, you should be able to stand side onto the pole and extend your arm out without your fingertips hitting the wall. Ideally, you should be able to stretch your fingertips to the pole and to the side without hitting a wall, but that's not completely necessary. In my space, for example, there's no danger of me slapping my limbs against the wall unless I'm going for a really extended move like a Reiko split, which I'll probably never be able to do anyway because my feet are so sweaty. I've seen pole YouTubers who have their pole studios in rooms with like a bunch of bookshelves or tons of storage bins or something like that, and while I do realize it is unrealistic to assume that everyone just has tons of space in their home, really do your best to give yourself a few feet of clearance. So many pole fail videos come from people hitting objects around them, and I'd hate for you to get stuck in a curtain or something in your room. As for height, most poles come in at a minimum of at least 7 feet tall, so your room needs to be at least that tall. I'm not sure what kind of hobbit home you'd be living in if your ceilings were not at least 7 feet tall, but now is the time to bust out any measuring device that you've got. Tape measure, that laser measure that measures with lasers, your apartment or home floor plan. You need this measurement to be as accurate as possible because a 9-foot tall pole will work perfectly in a 9-foot tall room, but will not work if your ceilings are 9 feet 2 inches tall. A lot of pole manufacturers strongly recommend against installing a pole in a room with popcorn ceilings. If you're not sure what that means, it means your ceiling has a rough, almost popcorn or Rice Krispie-like texture that can be rubbed off if you apply pressure to it. Some pole dancers get around this by placing a wooden board between their pole and the ceiling, but it is something to consider. And if your ceiling is slanted, pole manufacturers sell these cool attachments that can adjust to the slope of your ceiling. As for the floor, the most ideal flooring situation is hardwood or tile, but some pole dancers do get by putting their pole in a carpeted room as long as the pole is snug against the floor. Don't ever put your pole on a rug or something that can be tugged out from underneath it. Now that you have the money and you know exactly where you'd like your pole to go, it's time to choose your companion. Head on over to the Loopit pole or X pole websites, and nowhere else, and choose the category called home pole or maybe portable poles. You don't want to look at something called studio poles because those are much taller and meant to be screwed into the ceiling usually, and unless you need to bring your pole around with you, you can ignore stage poles. Those are the ones that don't connect to the ceiling at all, just to the base that extends out into a little stage. Find one that matches the height you need, and now you can look at the specifications. I highly recommend choosing one that can switch between static and spin, which you can usually do by just turning a little screw at the bottom with a specialized Allen wrench. How about material? I've said it before, I thought getting a powder-coated pole was going to be my sweaty hander's dream, and it's just not, so I would recommend just going with classic chrome since you'll likely see that in a studio anyway. If you have a metal allergy, you can sometimes find a stainless steel pole. And you likely won't see this listed as an option, but steer clear of getting a silicone pole unless you are specifically going to be pole dancing with clothes on every single time you use it. And besides, silicone poles are not the kind typically found in pole studios or the ones that you see people like me, a pole YouTuber, using. As for width, the norm that I've found in America is 45 millimeters, which is what I have. You may be able to find a 40 millimeter pole, which is great for people with small hands, and it's highly unlikely, but you might see a 50 millimeter pole, but I strongly recommend against that unless the pole is only ever going to be touched by you, a person with very large hands. Sometimes you can specify the color of the top, the base, and the pole itself, and none of these obviously has any bearing on its performance. Just remember, this is the thing you're going to be looking at for years to come, so choose a color that you like. X-Pole or Loopit may have mats in stock, so feel free to order one of those now. Otherwise, I give you permission to order your mat from Jeffrey Bezos on Amazon. Okay, you've successfully ordered your pole, which you can afford, and you know it's going to fit into your designated room nicely. If you've already cleared out that room for your use, skip to this time. If you haven't already cleared out that room, here's what you need to know. Like I said, make sure there isn't stuff just sitting around for you to kick. Before this was my pole room, this was the great stuff room in my house, and leaving any of that in here would have been disastrous. You can also see that this room used to house a chandelier, and having anything dangling from your ceilings is absolutely a no-go for a pole studio. Actually, those of you who have cleared out the space already, come back because you all need to hear this. Get rid of any dangling lights or hanging fixtures, even a hanging plant, unless it's like way off in the corner somewhere. I don't want to hear about you doing an aerial invert and getting tangled up in your chandelier and crashing to your doom, okay? My pole is set right next to a light, the one that used to be a chandelier. We replaced it with a flat, sturdy light source instead, so now there's absolutely no danger of it impeding my progress if I'm way up high in the pole. It is now time to collect your accessories. The pole will probably take about a month to ship, so you have some time. And remember, part 3 is going to be about filling that time in the most productive way possible. The most important accessory is your pole mat. I will say it again, get a pole mat. One that goes all the way around the pole, not a couple of pillows haphazardly thrown around or a yoga mat on either side. A specific pole mat with a hole in the center where the pole goes. Please and thank you. I talked about this all in my answering your poll questions video, but I'll link to my mat in the description box here as well. Another essential pair of items for your studio is a microfiber towel and some rubbing alcohol. It's really important to keep your pole clean, whether you're wiping off sweat, your skin cells, or that buildup of lotions and potions that you've been using to help you grip the pole. The best way to do this is by spraying a microfiber towel with some rubbing alcohol. And please do spray the towel, not the pole directly. You don't even need a squirt bottle, just the bottle of alcohol itself, but it's easier to spritz on. Now we're getting into the not essential products, but these are things that you probably should have in order to maximize your experience. A large mirror is fantastic. Mine is dinky and in an awkward spot, and I really should address that sometime soon. But it's like so helpful to be able to see yourself. It's not like you're a Narcissus gazing into the pond, it's like you're trying to complete a highly technical skill and you're trying to keep an eye on all your limbs all at once. Grip aids are going to help you out so much. I have a video coming out soon where I test a bunch of different grip aids, and you can find which ones you like best for yourself, but it goes a long way to just have something to put on your hands to make it easier to grip the pole, especially when you're first starting out and you don't have calluses built up yet. Get yourself a little tripod to hold your phone or camera because you're going to want to record yourself because you're hot as hell, but also because recording yourself and going back and reviewing the footage is like the best way to understand your positioning or any errors that you've been making. And I've been that bitch so many times where I've like propped my phone up on my water bottle or something, or propped it against the wall, and then in the middle of my recording it slid down, or it's like I'm not even in the shot, or even worse, it's something like this.
I did it! I got the trick I've been working on for months! Ah, son of a...
So putting your device on a tripod will allow you to film yourself at a good height without worrying about all that. Moving from the probably should haves to you might wants category, we have knee pads. If you suspect you're going to be doing a lot of saucy floor work, knee pads are important to protect, well, your knees. Getting pole-specific knee pads that have gaps in the back to expose your flesh so you can still cling onto the pole is a bonus, but honestly, I can't get on the pole with these things, even with that feature, so for me, they're strictly a floor thing. You might be extra excited to have a home pole because you really want to explore your sexuality, and for that, you might want yourself a pair of heels. Pleasers are the classic pole shoe, but honestly, you could employ any high heel that you've got as long as it straps securely to your feet. Pleasers are just the most recommended ones because their enormous height comes mostly from the box of the shoe, meaning that your weight is better balanced than in a traditional stiletto or something like that. Now comes a super fun part, making the studio your own. What's your aesthetic? Do you have a vibe? Do you have a color scheme? As long as nothing dangles or gets in your way, feel free to put up posters and greenery and lights and paint the walls. This is what you're going to be seeing in all of your footage, or if you make a YouTube channel or share the videos with your friends, and you want it to be something that feels like home and like a safe space where you can practice your craft, so make it your own, she says, as her aesthetic is like crap in the corner and occasional blanket from Goodwill blocking the window. Ding dong, your pole has arrived. I don't feel qualified explaining to you how to set it up step by step, and I don't want you to sue me if you do it wrong. So make sure that you closely follow your instructional booklet and or the instructional video that comes along with your pole. And don't try to follow an X-pole guide if you've got a Loop It pole or vice versa. But in general, get yourself a buddy to help with the install, and the instruction booklet will probably tell you that you can do it by yourself. Sure, Jan. Keep every part of the packaging until you're sure it's exactly up to your specifications, and I like to write down exactly what I was doing so that I can refer back to it in language I can understand. If you want to be really extra and you know that your pole is going to be a permanent fixture of the room that you own, not rent, you can do what my dad and I did, well, really just my dad, and install a little box around the top of the pole so if it were to come loose, it can only slide those couple of inches within the box. You now have a wonderful home pole studio so you can practice pole dancing to your heart's content. Follow your dreams! If you liked this video, feel free to let me know in the comments and like and subscribe to the channel for more like this. Part 2 will be out soon, and it's about choosing a pole studio. I think that's it for me. Bye!